How you doing, folks? This is Rex at the Buckeyenest, and look what I found. I was just out roaming around the countryside today picking up donations for the Fort Freedom equestrian team. They're going to be starting up down at the Dayton VA this month with their horses and doing their PTSD therapy program down there. And as I was coming away from one of the tractor supplies that donated, I spotted this on the side of the freeway. Now let me tell you what this thing is. Obviously it's a tank, but it's from way back in my day. Actually, this is an M48 tank, and this is from way back a few years before my day. I was in the Army from 72 to 75, and I was a tank crewman, and I was a part of a crew that used to run one of these bad boys, except they were called M60A1s, which were newer than this model here. Every crewman starts out as a driver, and believe it or not, that's where the driver sits, right there. And when you're combat locked in, you look out through these little portholes. They're called periscopes. You can see that they fit in there, and then the driver's able to drive, but he's got dead spots in his vision here. That's the reason that you rely on a commander to help you out. And this is the main gun. It's a 105 millimeter howitzer. And that open hole right there is on the M60A1. That's where a coaxially mounted 60 caliber, 30 caliber machine gun was mounted. And it fired the same distance and at the same targets the main gun was firing at. And I don't remember what this hole over here was for. Frankly, I don't think we had one of those on the A1s. But that may have been another machine gun mount in the 48. As I said, I didn't serve with the 48 crews. I served with the M60A1 crews. When you wanted to climb up on one of these things as a crewman, you always climbed up here from the front. You grabbed a hold of this bar here that protects the headlights, and you stepped up on this tow hook here. Then you stepped up on the tank front itself, and then you kind of pushed yourself up to where you could get up here on the fender, and then you climbed up on top of the turret through the side here. Most of the crew went in through the hatch. For the crew, that other little turret you see up there is a 50 caliber machine gun mount, and that's the tank commander's turret. And then I don't want to climb up on top of this thing. Getting up in age here, and my equilibrium doesn't work right. But there's another hatch right here on the top side of this turn on this side, and that's where the crew dropped down inside. And after everybody got down inside, and of course the driver went first because he had to get down here in his compartment. Then the gunner went in through this hatch, because inside the turn on the other side is where he sat. And then the loader went in on this side, and then usually the tank commander went in through his own hatch, but sometimes he'd go in through the crew hatch there too. This thing here I'm tapping on is called a sponson box, and that's where we kept all of our tools that we needed to keep the tank running in case we had a problem with it. I don't know if this one even runs or not. I'm assuming it does, because this thing, if it's anywhere near like the 60A1, it was 56 tons combat loaded with the ammunition and things of that nature. It held 65 main gun rounds, I believe, inside that turret that fired out of the 105. And I'll tell you something else neat about these things. Inside this grill here, at least on the model that I served on, is the engine. All right. Now what was neat about it was, well, they got it bolted shut here. I was going to see if I could pop it open. The engine in there is called a pack, and it's about the size of where you can see the pack cover. See these bolts right here? They hold the cover on top of the engine, and then there's some more bolts and handles up in there where the turret's covering over top of it, but you loosened all that up. Then there were some quick disconnect cables inside that the driver disconnected because his primary responsibility was maintenance on the tank itself. And they could actually back an 88 up here, hook on a couple of hooks, and pull that whole engine out. You could do that inside about 15 minutes quite easily, because all you had to do there was just on these tracks, these drive sprockets, you took a big tow bar and you broke the sprockets loose. Of course, you had to break the track loose too, but that wasn't nothing. Unless it was pretty old, then it would cause a problem. So you broke these sprockets loose off of the drivetrain, and you pulled the whole pack out with it, what was called an 88, a tank retriever. And then they could take and slap a new engine inside of 15 or 30 minutes. So if it took a serious hit and the engine got destroyed, well, then we could replace the engine in them and be back in action inside of an hour, given good luck. Because the tracks, they can get pretty finicky sometimes. I recall one time back in my day, we blew a track pad. That's what this thing here is. And these are called end connectors. So what happens is this is the pad that connects to this other one, and these connectors connect the track together. Well, one of these arms here on the pad busted, and because I was the driver at the time, it was my responsibility to change the track pad. Well, when I got started changing the one track pad that broke, I found another one that was cracked. So I knew that one was going to give away, so I started pulling the end connectors off for it and started doing some inspections, and I found another one. Then I found another one. Then I found another one. And when I finally get done finding all the bad ones, we had 13 of them. So you want to know why 13 is an unlucky number? That's one of the reasons. So by that time, I ended up replacing 13 track pads, but we only carried 2, maybe 3 spares on the tank itself, in case, you know, we had a track blown off or something. So we ended up having to call for an 88 to bring us more track pads. And that wasn't cool, because that took a long time, and you never know what's going to happen when your tank's down. So, but anyway, I guess they've taken this tank out of commission because these road wheels are pretty rusty. Water laid them and rusted up. The crew's probably retired by now. I'm only kidding, being facetious here, thinking out loud. But this thing sure brings back some memories. I recall another time, Fort Carson. The Army commander, the base on the commander of the base at the time, thought it would be a good idea if we took and gave rides to the civilians in Colorado Springs to improve morale between the civilians and the Army guys, because every now and then we go in town and raise a little hell, and that aggravates some of the civilians in there and give us a bad name. So we had to try to do something to make up for it. So this particular road march, we set it up and we took civilians and put them on the tank and let them ride on the inside and outside. We couldn't get very many inside because we had the crew in there. We had the full crew in there. So there wasn't much room left on the inside, so a lot of them rode around on the outside and just hung on. Of course, we didn't go very fast, and it was kind of fun. People would sit up here and they'd talk to me while I'm driving, and through the hatch there, and they'd talk to the commander and sit up there on top of the turret. And halfway through the road march, we stopped and fed them lunch at the base, Fort Carson. Mess hall went out in the middle of the boondocks and set up and fed them all free lunch, and we sat out there and told war stories for a while and laughed and giggled with them. When we went back to my tank, I had parked my tank on top of a tarantula colony. Yeah, you guessed it. Because what would you do if you had 56 tons of pig iron parked on top of your house? Yeah, that tank was infested with tarantulas. Of course, then we had to send everybody back over to the mess hall area, call for deuce-and-a-half trucks, which, by the way, that's what that thing is over there, a deuce-and-a-half. I used to drive one of those too. We put them all in a deuce and a half that come off of my tank, gave them a ride back to base and that. Then we had to call for an 88 to come and tow the tank back to spray it down and get rid of all the tarantulas that had decided to make a nest in there in the new home out of that tank. So they finally did, but you know, we were finding tarantula bodies for at least 6 months after that. Of course, we were out in the desert and stuff, so that's where they thrived. Well, I'm quite sure I'll think of some more stuff here about back in my tank days, but this was it. This was an M48. It wasn't exactly the type that I drove. It was pre-model from the M68-1s that I was part of, and we were all cross-trained all the way from driver to gunner to loader to tank commander. And as I said, the tank commander, he sat up there with his .50 caliber in that turret up there and told the driver which way to go to. Of course, you can see his vision is limited too, but when he's got his head popped up out of there, it's different. So, till next time, folks. This is Post 4239 up near Sydney. I was up here today picking up some donations from the tractor supply for the For Freedom Equestrian team. Stay tuned. I might come back on with some more war stories for you.